Welcome back, y'all. I was just jamming. I'm coming up. Welcome back, y'all. I hope that you all enjoyed that break, right? And that cooking demonstration, that live cooking demonstration with adobe fish sauce and Ricky and Phoebo, and actually explored our expo hall as well. My name is Taisha Wilson. I'm the Director of Engagement at Philanthropy Together. And thank you all so very much for joining our friends at Philanos for this amazing session, Just in Time Grants. Just a couple of reminders, y'all. Closed captioning is always available. So just if you need it, just you can enable it on your chat. And as well as if you hang tight for the full session, we have a quick, very quick two question poll, and we'd love for y'all to answer that. But I will go ahead and turn it over to Nancy, who will get us started. I'm sorry, Sandy, who'll get us started. Have fun.
Good afternoon. Nancy is behind the scenes running the show, really. But and I just want to thank Philanthropy Together for putting together another extraordinary program so far this morning. I've just enjoyed and learned so much in a very, very short period of time. So thanks, and we look forward to doing more. Welcome, and thanks for being with us for a most timely topic. This program, our short briefing, covers 3 unique approaches to just-in-time and special grant award initiatives. Heather Hamlin, Barb Van Winkle, and Jarrett will each take about 10 minutes or so to outline their respective grant initiatives. Today, we'll use the chat for your conversations with one another, but if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A section, and we'll have a little bit of time at the end of this session, and of course, more time in our session, Let's Keep Talking, that starts at 4 o'clock Eastern. So if there are no other questions about the process, let's get going and welcome Heather Hamlin from Women Helping Women. She'll start the conversation and then turn it over to Jenny and then to Barb. Thank you so much for being here.
Wonderful, thanks, Sandy. So my name is Heather Hamlin. I am Executive Director of Women Helping Women Fund. We are located in Spokane, Washington, and we serve Spokane County. We are an independent 501c3 founded in 1992 by 6 amazing women. It's a similar story for collective giving, right? It's always this small group that led to big things, and we're no different. We focus on 3 main areas. Let's see, we have grants. We've awarded $6.5 million. We have scholarships for young moms that are juggling childcare and tuition. And then we also connect with a large group of stakeholders to do community health assessments, and we release a State of Women and Children report for our county. How do we do this, right? So we are funded through corporate sponsorships, actually. All of our overhead is entire operations, so that 100% of the donations received from individuals goes right back out into the community. The grants and scholarships, like I said, those are from individuals. We have a large community event each year, about 2,000 attendees happening next week, and that's how that gets funded. And then we also just launched collective giving in November of 2020, and we have 180 members. All right, next slide. So the question about the just-in-time grants is, why launch something new? We're 30 years old. We have something that's been working great. Responsive grant process is tried and true. Why would we really want to shake that up? Well, it's because we're connected to the community. We hear about the needs of our nonprofits and the funding gaps that they experience. We serve on lots of different boards, work groups, steering committees, and we just see the need. So we decided that this would be a great opportunity to lay the groundwork with relationship building for trust-based philanthropy. We have not made that entire shift yet, but we are still working on that. And then also just COVID. We awarded those emergency funds to the Regional Community Foundation, $25,000, but obviously that was not going to fill the need. Next slide. All right, so Instagrams, we established during COVID, like I said, just a couple months after we were all home. We set aside 12,000 that first year. We're hoping for 20,000 next year. We've awarded 21 grants so far. And this is a picture of one of my favorite Instagrams. So this is an Eagle Scout that wanted to build a fence around a home that is for unwed mothers and children that are fleeing domestic violence. And so they want a safe spot, right? And this Eagle Scout wanted to do the project, but he didn't have the funds to build the fence. So we stepped in with the funds for Naomi, the nonprofit behind him right there. He did the work, and it was this great community collaboration. Next slide. These are some of the other grants that we have given through the Instagram program. Obviously, we chose the name because we're very, I'd say, active on social. So Instagram, it made us smile. That's why we chose it. These are some of the other grantees you can see. We've done everything from like youth coats. We've done bunk bed building supplies for children that don't have beds, welcome home kits for the Ukrainian refugees, and all the way down to playground equipment for our deaf and birth to 3 program here locally. It's been really, really well received. And you can see we have something kind of through every month of the year, right? For Mother's Day, we give out gift bags for single moms. We partnered with a nonprofit that does that. It's been so great to see how we can fill that need. All right, next slide. One of the questions that we get a lot is how are we selecting them? And to be really honest, we don't have a very formal, structured way that we're doing that right now. I would say that the responsive grant process is structured enough for the entire organization, and we can be a little bit fluid on these smaller Instagrants. So we try not to award an Instagrant to a current responsive grant recipient. These are unrestricted funds that range between $500 and $1,000. And we go to the nonprofit often. You know, they're posting their Amazon wish lists on social. We know that maybe a nonprofit had a fire or a break-in and they need a new door. So we go ahead and do that. And when we approach them, they are over the moon excited. And when we share this on social and with our donor base, people are just as excited over a $5,000 grant as they are over a $20,000 grant. It's very interesting, just the psychology behind it. All right, and then next slide. Perfect. So that is it on Women Helping Women Fund and our Instagram program. Thanks for having me today. I'll pass it over to Ginny.
Thanks, Heather. That was great. The Roanoke Women's Foundation started operating in 2004. Candy Elliott and I were the co-founders of that. We started with 68 members. Now we're close to 200 members. We have awarded over $4.5 million, pushing 5 this year. The smallest grant we give in a regular grant cycle is $30,000. So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit different project. As Candy and I were leaving the board after 12 to 13 years of service, the incoming Innovative Fund president, Jan Jarrett, thought a great idea would be to establish what is called the Founders Fund, really to honor us. And I can't think of anything better that could have been done. They kind of passed the hat, so to speak, to see how much money would be raised. They really didn't know what to expect. It ended up being over a year and a half-ish, about 33,000, and now it's grown to 51,000. And Candy and I, at our sole discretion, get to pick out who gets the interest that is thrown off of this corpus. So we've given 5 grants worth that total 7,000. I think we can go to the next slide, Nancy. All I just told you. The Mill Mountain Theater is a local equity theater. It's a professional theater. I want to say this about the Women's Foundation grants. It's, for me, it's the one time where I tend to make decisions with my heart rather than a more objective look at a grant or the need for a grant. Organizations do not request these funds. This is a gift that Candy and I give. The Mill Mountain Theater spoke to me in the first year because even though the arts is one of our 4 giving areas, we don't give a lot of money to the arts. And frankly, it was the first place I ever visited on my first visit to Roanoke. So it kind of spoke to my heart. It's been around forever. It's a very strong part of this community. The National MS Society, Katie and I gave a grant to in the second year. They had chosen us to honor for our work with the Women's Foundation as a fundraiser. And I'm proud to say we helped them raise more than they'd ever raised before. But at the end of it, we announced that they received a Founders Fund grant. The next year, we gave the funds to House of Bread. And this was really, Candy brought this to our attention. And they were, it was really an organization too young to have asked us for a grant through regular channels. They were pretty new, and it was a great way for women that had been formerly incarcerated to learn a skill, a vocation. So they were taught to bake bread and could get jobs as bakers and in restaurants. The Child Health Investment Partnership of Roanoke Valley is a very old organization in Roanoke. Doctors and nurses donate their time to this group. We had given them funds in the past, and they had requested funds this grant year, which was 2020, and did not, it's a very rigorous process, and they were not awarded a grant. And so we particularly wanted to do something for them because they were gathering all the things that families would need during this horrible crisis. And then most recently, we gave to the Good Samaritan Hospice here in Roanoke, and it was a time where I did let my heart choose. I put my foot down about it. It was all my idea, and that's because this organization had been so supportive to Candy Elliott's family as they lost their mother. And I just felt it was a capital campaign. We are one of the few organizations in the Valley that actually give to capital campaigns. So it's money well spent. They've got an excellent long-term track record. Do I have another slide? Here we are. The first slide is when the money was given to the theater. In the middle is Candy and I giving to the Good Samaritan Hospice. And on the far right are the women baking bread in what we call the Leap Kitchen that we had helped fund years ago to get started. It's a community kitchen that's helped many organizations. Child Health Partnership is the one we gave to in 2020 that provided such needed supplies to families. And the MS Society grant is the one I was explaining that we were honored for. So those are our grants. I will tell you, we're fortunate anytime we give a grant, it gets some attention, and then others will help fund these organizations, and we're proud to do that. I'm through.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ginny.
It's Barb's turn.
That's okay. I am Barb Van Winkle. I am chair of the Women's Giving Circle of Howard County, which is located in Maryland, in between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. We were founded in 2002 with 15 founding members, and I am proud to say that I was at the very first meeting 20 years ago, and I'm extremely proud to have been our advisory board chair for the last almost 4 years. Our mission is building a community of philanthropists and creating a permanent legacy to address the needs of women and girls in Howard County. We started 20 years ago as a field of interest fund at the Community Foundation of Howard County with multiple giving levels and by building an endowment. That is something that very different than a lot of other giving circles, but that was a goal of the founders and we have done a great job for that. So we are basically a hybrid of a giving circle and a women's fund, with an advisory board that is our decision-making body. Next slide. Today, we have over 1,600 members who have given in the last 20 years. We have awarded over $1 million through over 250 grants to our nonprofit partners, and we have built a $1.3 million endowment to ensure that there are funds to support women and girls in our community in perpetuity. And we are in year 3 of a 5-year effort to integrate a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens and framework into all of our work. Our funding is focused on programs that benefit women and girls in these 6 general areas: demographics and diversity, work and the economy, education and educators, health and well-being, safety and justice, and finally, leadership and political participation. There are 4 distinct ways to give, as we're very proud to promote. Everyone who gives to the WGC is a member, and all member gifts, regardless of the size, are truly valued and deeply appreciated. We have 4 distinct ways for members to give. 1, as a community member, 2, as a sponsor member, 3, legacy member, and or 4, a big give member. All member gifts support our grant making, our core strength, and or our endowment. 80 cents of every dollar given to the WGC goes directly to our grant making. 20 cents of every dollar goes to support our core strength so that we can ensure that we are able to continue our important work every year. The only exceptions are for legacy members, where 100% of the donation goes to the WGC endowment, and gifts to our emergency response network, where 100% of the gifts go to address the stated emergency. The WGC's Emergency Response Network, or ERN, was created over 19 years ago in response to the desire of many of our members to provide direct help to women in need in our community. Here is how it works. Our ERN network of nonprofit partners know that they can reach out to us with a request of up to $1,000 to assist a female client with an emergency need. An emergency can be anything from a woman needing help with first and last month's rent to flee an abusive situation, to a woman needing help to fix her car, because if she doesn't have her car, she can't get to her job. And then finally to a woman needing to help to pay off a bill that's a cog in the wheel that keeping her from getting ahead. It's basically designed to support a woman who needs help with a one-time emergency that helps her get ahead. When we receive and approve an ERN request, we get the word out to our members, the broader community through our website, very active social media presence, and to our email list of about 1,500 women. And we invite donations of any size to help support the woman in need. Typically, within an hour or less, we raise enough funds that we shut down the request. This is the power of collective giving. The funds are sent to our nonprofit partner as a grant, and then they help their client address the emergency. Okay, so life changed in March of 2020. To address the COVID-19 pandemic, we made a decision to extend the scope of the ERN for a period of time to assist broader needs and more people in our community. We not only continue to help women through the ERN, but we sent ERN requests in excess of $1,000 to directly fund our nonprofit partners as they worked to support the community with basic needs. Expanding our grant-making scope and engaging the community in the ERN on behalf of our nonprofit partners on the ground during the pandemic has resulted in a number of new members participating in the ERN and increased visibility in our community. Since its inception, under the visionary leadership of former WGC Advisory Board members Arlene Sheff and Kim Fleer, the ERN has assisted over 200 women, families, and partner organizations with over 200,000 from our members who have responded to the call to action through WGC's ERN. Take a listen.
I think the successes and meeting the mission is very obvious when you look at any part of the Giving Circle. For me, particularly the Response Network, for example. I mean, the instant effect of the Response Network is extraordinary. It started in 2003 with me going to all the nonprofit agencies in the county and meeting with them and getting wish lists. We started getting requests from individual women, from school counselors, just from people in the community who had heard of women in need.
My experience has been that women want to reach out and help each other, and that's been proven to me again and again every time I send out the Response Network.
And it needed to be a woman who needed a one-time amount of money. She had had some immediate crisis, but she would be able to get back on her feet.
I would send out that email for help for another woman, and I just remember the feeling of those emails coming back at me, just all these women who I didn't know instantly writing to me and saying, yes, 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 I'll help. And it just so affirmed, my faith in people at a time that I wasn't so sure I had a lot of faith in people. And honestly, there were many days that I just felt like that Response Network, reaffirmed my faith. I used to say in womanity, because it wasn't really humanity, it was women.
We are so honored to support women in our community directly through our emergency response network. You can see the two women that ran it in the beginning were on there, and they were absolutely phenomenal. What I'll tell you about the ERN, it is one of the top things that we have done in the last 20 years that has garnered the most engagement, has provided the most direct impact, and has received the most positive responses and deep gratitude. So it's a wonderful thing. I'm going to end today by providing you with one example of what we've heard from women who we've helped through the ERN for almost 2 decades. I would like to send you my heart-filled appreciation for helping my children and I get out of a bad situation and bringing us peace. I had been in a bad, abusive relationship and marriage for 12 years and needed a way out, but did not know how. The WGC's Emergency Response Network helped with the entire amount of my first month's rent days later. It was a miracle. I moved into my place, and my children and I are the happiest we've ever been. Thank you again, and I hope to be in a position where I can help someone else just as myself in the near future. I mean, I think it's just what's so heartwarming about, again, collective giving, women helping other women, that this is what happens, is that, you really can change a life, and that hopefully that person will then move forward and help other people that were in their situation. So that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much. And I will now turn it back to Sandy for Q&A.
Oh, wonderful. Good to see all of you. And thanks so much for these three really both informative and quite inspiring sessions. And there are some questions, and I'm going to put them into two categories. There's one category of sort of the mechanics of how some of this works, and second, a bigger picture in terms of the role of these initiatives in the community and with your organization's visibility, if you will, and outreach. And then there are a couple of nuts and bolts questions too along the way. But let me put this one to each of you because it came up several times, is, these are funds that are really targeted for some particular initiatives. There's a question about how does that work? Are they held separate in a separate fund from your other grant making? Just sort of the technical question of how are these paid out and held, and are there budgets in advance for this kind of work? So we'll start with Heather.
Sure. We actually just have one grant pool, and then our board decides the allocation of that. So we do it based on percentages, what goes to responsive grants, what goes to the Insta grants, and then another percentage for scholarships, and a fourth percentage is actually for endowment every year. So that's how we break it out. Other ladies?
Okay, Ginny?
Well, this particular grant, the Founders Fund, was put together to thank co-founder Candy Elliott and myself, and to allow us to pick, and we have, the board approves it, but we have sole discretion really on where it goes, and the corpus will grow if gifts are made to it, and people have, plus it is just grown, and we invest in the community, the income that's thrown off of it. So it's not a part really of Roanoke Women's Foundation budget at all. It's held at our community foundation, even though we are our own 501c now, but so it's a little different.
And Barb?
We're, I think, more similar to Heather. I think that where all of our money is put into a fund, we do set aside some matching funds for the ERN, because again, it was so successful, and there was such a desperate need for helping people in our community. So I know just recently did one that was for Luminos, which is working with the Afghan refugees that have come to Howard County. And, we put out a fund request for $5,000, and then we're able to match that. We put up funds to match that. So again, ours is, it's all together, but, and we do a budget each year. This year, because it's our 20th year anniversary, we have pledged to do $200,000 this year. So that's our goal.
Terrific. There is a question about any challenges in either introducing this or keeping it going along the way, and if so, what were they and how did you overcome them? Because it seems like they've all been quite innovative and successful. Comments about that?
We haven't had a glitch.
Mm-hmm.
We're very lucky. It's been 6 years. We're in our 6th year of it, and it's just a joy for us.
Maybe yeah, go ahead, Heather, please.
We also haven't had any issues with it. If anything, we need to build it out more. So we have plans towards the end of this year to engage our collective giving members in prioritizing some of the Instagrams as they become available. I think that will make membership a little stickier and a little bit more urgent to engage. The other item is that our corporate sponsors want to get involved in these Instagrams. So they're saying, if we give you $1,000, can you keep 500 and use the other 500 as an Instagrant? So we're like, oh gosh, I mean, if anything, we have to build it out more.
That's interesting. There was a question from somebody about your corporate funders and how it works with them. So that is one example. And I assume if something's been going for 20 years, It's,
It seems to be successful at this point. I'm very proud of my group. I have the best advisory board. It's a wonderful group of women that are all passionate and dedicated. And we are really expanding our membership. I mean, I think with our DEI initiative, it has brought a whole group, a wonderful group of new people that are fascinated and want to be involved with us. So we feel we want to represent our community. And again, sort of like what both Heather and Ginny said, we fortunately haven't had any real major glitches either. It's been very successful.
On the DEI front, there were a couple of questions, particularly for you, for Howard County. Two things. One, just how are you moving forward in that area? And then a more specific one with your multiple kinds of membership structures. How does that influence, particularly from a diversity standpoint, your membership? You said the DEI work is moving along and you're attracting more members, particularly more diverse members. So those are kind of two things tied together.
Okay. Well, what I would say with DEI, I mean, again, we actually formed a new committee 3 years ago, led by two wonderful women. Both were women of color. They were phenomenal. And we had, I think it was one of our largest committees. Everybody wanted to join it. We, then started to try to infuse the principles into all of our committees, into our board, everything we did. And actually, last year, we made a decision that it had been so successful that we don't even have a DEI committee anymore, because we've got people that are in each of the other committees we have, and they represent the DEI initiative and make sure that we stay on track for that. So it's very important. We actually last year did our first social justice grant. So we are very much, again, where we live, Howard County is an extremely diverse population. I guess maybe geographically where we're located, close to DC, Baltimore. But again, I think we've really done well. I would say on our board, I think we have half women of color. So I feel like we really do represent our community that we live in. Okay, what was the other part? Sorry, the
structure of your dues. Anybody who gives
is a member. They can give $10 and they're a member. Yes. And, again, I think one of the best things we've done in the last couple of years was to hire an executive director who is the wonderful Buffy Bedoin Schwartz, who is a founder of the Women's Giving Circle 20 years ago. And now I know is on the Philanos board. But she has been wonderful. I think we were growing so much. There was no way we were going to be able to keep up. We're all volunteers. So, we really had to have somebody on the inside that kept everything organized and was able to do the social media. And Buffy is just phenomenal with that. So we are very lucky to have her.
Yes, you are. And so is Philanos.
Yes, I agree. And she is a dear friend of mine. So I feel really lucky.
I'll turn the DEI question around too, because Heather, your organization is in an unusual community too. So I know you've talked some about some of the strategies you've had. This isn't a DEI session, but it's open to anything. So a few comments about how you're approaching it.
Yeah, Spokane County in Washington State is just not diverse. It really isn't. We're one of the largest cities in the country with the lowest percentage of just diversity. And so we have to be really, really intentional with that. We are looking at DEI with our lens on grant making. We're looking at it on engagement. We're looking at it on, even like the grantee reports and how we engage with those communities. We actually have hired an equity consultant for some of our projects. And so she also serves two purposes. She is the DEI gal that runs everything for our largest school system here. And then she has a consulting firm. And so she really is helping us look at things through a different lens, and it's long overdue.
Mm-hmm. Ginny, any perspectives in Roanoke and the work that you've been doing? You're muted, yeah.
We would be delighted to become more diverse, but it is something we have struggled with for years. Our community is not very large, unlike Spokane, but we have a very small percentage of minority members. I believe 12%.
Mhm.
We don't have 12% women of color in our organization. It's a problem we've identified time after time with strategic planning. So we're still working on it. We're not giving up. We know it'll make us stronger.
Yes. What about diversity in age? Have you become more diverse in age over the years?
Yes, we have. We've been able to attract some younger members, particularly in the last couple of years. And we're really happy about that. We recently had a young woman join who's also an IT specialist.
Yay.
Oh, that's for sure.
That's helpful.
I want to go back. One other question. I was looking at my notes. Heather, I think you may have answered this, but I'm going to put it out there just to make sure. A little bit more about the corporate funders. You've been very successful, and you tied some of it to this small grant program. But how would you typify the corporate funders and what's drawing them to your work?
Well, we've been hosting this giant community event for 30 years. And the founders, those 6 women that I always put on a pedestal, they were women that you don't say no to. So they're like past politicians, the mayor of Spokane, right? So that first year when they did the event and they came to corporate sponsors couldn't say no to these ladies. And it's kind of continued on. So now this event is a see and be seen. And they come to us to sponsor, and it's really great. During COVID, though, without the large event, we pivoted and made those sponsorships into just organizational sponsors, not event specific. And that's gone really well. Some of our corporate sponsors will actually sponsor specific programs, right, around collective giving, like spotlight sessions, nonprofit connects. And then we find also that when we have events, those corporate sponsors are just built-in attendees. So it's been good for us.
Talk a minute about your migration to collective giving.
Oof. So this event for 30 years, we kept hearing from the community that they wanted more. They wanted more than this one event where we raised money. And then we were quiet pretty much the rest of the year working on grant making. And COVID gave us that opportunity to really pause and sit back and say, how do we engage someone year round? How do we make our organization more sticky? And collective giving was the answer. It is new to the market in our area. It's very hard to understand for some people, but once they get it, that light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, you'll arrange volunteer opportunities. I can give you money every month and then it will be pooled with others. So it's a no-brainer once they understand, but the corporate sponsors make that a lot easier. And it's been a fun shift. It's caused a lot of gray hairs, but it's been pretty fun.
Yes, I remember our first conversation. So it's a great story, I think, for other foundations in particular. Jenny, one of the things that I noticed when we were looking at this particular program that you've initiated is one of your hopes or objectives was to really promote more women's philanthropy in the Roanoke area. How do you see that has done that? Are you getting any signs that there's greater recognition or connection to women's philanthropy as a result?
Yes, it's incredible. What we have found over the years, we've got a pretty rigorous grants process and a pretty large committee percentage-wise of our members, and it's not easy to get one of our grants. You know, we've had a lot of discussion among Philanos that do people really need to jump through all the hoops we provide? And so we're thinking about that. But what we have found is once we give a meaningful grant, and again, our smallest is 30. I think our largest has been 110. I might be a few bucks off that. Others start taking notice. They really do. Other organizations, corporations start taking notice of the validity of whoever we're giving to. But one of the things we always wanted to do was educate our members. So they get to study about all the organizations that have asked us for funds. And as we kind of whittle it down to a ballot and people vote, they get to know a lot more about each organization, and maybe their vote, they get 2 or 3 votes depending on the size of the ballot. They've learned about all these organizations. I will tell you that by the time we count the votes, I can't remember who I voted for because they're so great most of the time, all of them. But what I did, I can say for this one woman, I had never been an arts patron, an arts donor, anything like that, but I learned a lot about our organizations in this valley, and I started that. For me, that's one of my personal areas of giving now that was new to me, and I can't help but think some of the other hundreds of women who have joined our organization haven't discovered new areas to give. We never wanted our donation to take from what they were doing. We wanted it to add, and I think we've become a more generous community of women because of it.
Mhm.
At one time, we've had 3 generations of a family be a member.
Wow.
You know, that's exciting because we do want to develop young philanthropists.
Yes. A sort of a related question on, well, 2 parts. One is any particular examples of how this has influenced your collaboration or connection with other philanthropic efforts in the community? Anything to talk about there? Are you just hanging out by yourself, or have you influenced others, or have you tried any collaborations? Any of you?
I would, certainly going back to the Emergency Response Network, we have, I think, a list of either 10 or 12 of local nonprofits that are all 501c3s that are our partners. And we have it, it's very transparent on our website. If you are a Howard County based 501c3 that your focus is women and girls, that you can apply online and become one of our qualified nonprofit partners. So there is an application, and I think that really connects us. So just one quick thing to tell you, we also collaborated with a whole group of actually quite large philanthropic organizations when COVID began. We were part of a group called HOCO Respond. And we were the Community Foundation, of which we're a fund of, the Women's Giving Circle, the Horizon Foundation, which is it's a large organization, a nonprofit in Columbia, Howard County, that focuses mostly on a lot of health issues. And then United Way of Central Maryland. All the 4 of our organizations work together, and we ended up giving out over, I think it was $625,000 in the last 2 years to local nonprofits that desperately needed help. So that was a wonderful thing. And again, the ERN, we want to expand, and we'd love to have more people be our nonprofit partners. So
I can think of one significant example that comes to my mind is that our local Virginia Western Community College wanted to start a community college access program so that all children in our valley that in the Roanoke school systems, if they had a C, could go to the community college free. And if they got a associate's degree, they were assured entrance into any state university. So we began the funding of that, and I'm gonna say 14 years ago, if memory serves, with our first $100,000 grant. And by golly, like that, our biggest corporate donor in the valley came through within a couple of weeks with 110,000.
Yeah.
So that got that up and running. So that was at least a 3-way partnership that we're very proud of.
And Heather, any sort of outstanding or unique collaborations in your work? You're muted.
Thank you. Like we don't know how to work Zoom by now. We have a lot of great collaborations. like I said, we sit on a lot of the different task forces and committees and work groups and boards, and we get to have a seat at the table to represent women and children. It's also nice having those corporate sponsors because it does give us a little bit of a seat at the table. There have been some times where I think maybe we should have a seat and we don't. And I just kind of show up and say, well, like, I have a fold-up chair in my car. I'm here to represent women and children. And it works. So the partnerships just make us stronger. We'll sometimes partner with other grant makers so that they can really increase their impact, and we can do kind of those collaborative grants. I don't know. We just have a lot of fun, and we rarely say no to collaboration.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a whole nother session about how do you make them work. This kind of programming probably is really helpful because there's a common frame around them, particularly that I think, unfortunately, COVID started and people are beginning to understand that power. All right, we've just got a few more minutes, and it seems like a crazy question, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but I think because you've got three really resourceful, creative entities, what do you wish you were working on next? Do you have any big idea that's sitting out there? Barb, any big idea?
Yeah, well, what I would tell you, I think, we are starting, I gave you the fourth thing with our Big Give membership. And this is something, again, remember I told you in the beginning, we worked on developing a large endowment that will generate money for us in perpetuity. But we certainly, we wanted to, again, go towards the model of most giving circles where, money comes in and you give it out. So what we're doing this year, we are doing our first foray into a grant making where people will donate $1,200, where $1,000 for grants and $200 for the course support. And again, we're not looking to have a gigantic right now, but this will be the first year. I think we have 8 or 10 teams already. And we've done it both individually, but we also, in deference to, either, could be a younger person or maybe somebody retired that's on a limited income, they can team with up to 3 other women. And I just love this idea. I think it's a great idea. So we have a combination of both individuals and teams that we'll be doing. So I think that's our next big thing that we're going to do. We hope, this year, if we can get even 20 teams, that's great. And if not, whatever we have at this point, it will be enough. They can learn about the grant making. So that's our new thing.
Jenny, do you have a next big thing in Roanoke?
I have 2 things that I really wish. These are wishes.
All right.
The way Heather's program seems to work and the network program that Barb is describing, I'd like to have some section of funds available for the next problem that happens.
Okay.
We hopefully will not have another pandemic, but one never knows what might come up. And I'd like to be more nimble. I'd like to be as nimble as these 2 were in that area. And the other thing I would like to see is one of our areas is health and human services, and that's where we get most of our requests and we give most of our funds. I would like us to somehow focus on the mental health aspects of that.
Oh. Heather, one quick thing. I'm getting these messages.
Okay.
Come on, and we're going to close out, but I know you have your
really quick.
idea.
Really quick. We have an event space and a warehouse, and we are going to partner with Amazon to take some of their returns, hopefully, and distribute them out to nonprofits. So we're just kind of always looking at new things and how we can engage more in the community, but we're different because we have 2 full-time paid staff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I envy that. In Denver, we have none. So that's our next big thing in Denver is staff. Well, thanks to everybody. There is going to be a quick poll through We Give, and then, so if you could please respond to that. And then our next session for our team is Let's Keep Talking. So you can come back into this session or any of the sessions, even if you didn't go to them, to be in more informal conversation. Thank you again, each of you, for your time. I think this, we'd learned lots and it was good fun too. Thanks for participating, and thanks to Philanos and the We Give Summit.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you so much. Sandy, Ginny, with your beautiful accent, Barb, Heather, y'all were fantastic. We appreciate you all so very much for sharing your valuable insights and grant stories, and hope you all will, yes, as I mentioned, to join us to continue the conversation at 4 p.m. And there's also 2 other concurrent sessions that are hosted by our other networks, Amplifier and Social Venture Partners. But we'll see you all there.